Mudryk hijack, kind of sticking with the Chelsea situation, in terms of the latest with this, is very interesting. Arsenal have now have explicitly told the player and Shakhtar Donetsk they will not get into a bidding war for the player. They're not going to do it, but remain confident because he has told them that they're his number one choice. But Chelsea's confidence is now there is a confidence at Chelsea that they will be able to get they'll be able to outbid Arsenal, and that they're also slowly convincing the player to join. From your point of view, Agal, this is a major target you could have got in the summer. You've had 2 bids rejected. Chelsea are pursuing him hard. It slowed down your progression. What do you think is going to happen, and what do you want your club to do? Spend that money, bring in the player, win the league, or go elsewhere, or spend nothing? Like, how do you see this going, Agal?
If Chelsea bid 90 million, you walk away. If Chelsea bidding 75, 80, you match it and the player comes to our club. That's basically what it is. We're not gonna go over the valuation. The club has their valuation. They've done this numerous times. If we can't get him for the valuation that we deem fit, there's many other players we can also find, although he does have a higher potential than some of these other players that we go for. So we do have a cutoff, and I think that's where we draw the line. Personally, I wouldn't walk away from this deal. I would try to get him done, but I'm not going to go upwards of. I don't think the club's going to go upwards of 75 to 80 million pounds. I think they're going to cut off at 70 million euros, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't know how much you're going to end up spending, but he did the director, that Nicolini guy, say something like he believes he's better than Anthony. We paid 80 million for Anthony. Shakhtar ain't holding out. So how much are you going to end up spending? It's quite a lot of money. I don't think it'll be 80. I think that's a bluff. I think that's a bluff.
They also mentioned Jack Grealish.
Is there a problem here? Is there a problem here with Arsenal fans? And I'm not saying all, some Arsenal fans seem really reluctant for their club to spend money, almost like, Jess has called this out, and I think she's right. Some, it isn't all, but like blocking. But what about the pathway of Marquinhos? What about the pathway of Vieira? If we spend this much money, what about the development of this individual? Is this Arsenal fans not wanting to spend big? Because if you spend another 100 million, there's then no excuse. Like if you don't spend any money and you come second by a couple of points, it's but look how much more money City spend than us. Where if you spend 120 million this window on João Felix and Mudryk and you don't win the league, there's no excuse remaining because you've spent massive.
I think you're overanalyzing it, Terry, a little bit.
To answer the question, then why are some Arsenal fans?
I am answering the question, but
why are they not bothered about spending?
It's not about spending. We've spent money on sorry about that. We spent money on players in the past, like Nicolas Pepe. We've spent money on Ben White. We spent money on Thomas Partey. We spent money, but we've never spent this type of money in the January window in a long time, since maybe Aubameyang. We're comfortably okay with the club spending money. That's not the issue. The issue is we don't see at this moment in time, if the club does this things certain ways, and the fans can see that the club do things certain ways, and that's all it is. We're pointing out the practices that the club do. We're not pointing out, we don't want to spend money. It's not like any fan is going out there saying, I don't want to spend 80 plus million. We're saying the club is not going to do that.
Pepe PTSD, isn't
it? That doesn't make sense to me. As a fan of football, that doesn't make sense. What the club is, the Glazers have a way of doing things, right? Don't mean I agree with them. Do you agree it's right to move away from your target? And I say that because if you look at this season,
I do.
Let me just say this. If you look at this season alone, this is how much money clubs have spent so far this season. You've spent the least amount and you're first in the league, okay? If you spent another £100 million, which might be slightly outside the way the club operate, and you win the league, is that not better than not spending it and coming second? What would you prefer?
You're almost making it seem like if we don't spend the money on Mudryk, we're not going to find an alternative.
I'm asking you a question because I'm confused, not by people saying don't spend above and beyond, go elsewhere. That makes sense. I asked you a very specific question. I'm talking about Arsenal fans that have got this weird but we can't buy this youngster because what about this guy? Like, what's that all about? It's very specific.
I don't think anyone cares about, no disrespect to Marquinhos, I don't think anybody cares about Reece Nelson, Marquinhos in the scheme of getting in Mudryk. personally. I haven't seen anybody say, "Oh, let's not sign Modric because it's going to hurt ESR." I haven't heard anyone say that. In actual fact, people have said, "Let's sign this guy so ESR can play in his more natural position and drop deeper into the midfield for the foreseeable future." They view him as someone who can play in that Xhaka role. So in my opinion, Terry, what you're talking about might be something that you've heard in the past, but right now in this current situation, we've moved past that. We're looking at trying to win things. We're looking at trying to continue to fix the squad and get further. No one in the Arsenal fan base is holding on to sentimental value for players, because at this moment in time, we're looking at something bigger. And if anyone's holding on to that, please show me who it is.
So if you don't spend money this January, if you turn around and say, we're not spending what Shakhtar want for Mudryk, and we're not spending the loan fee on João Felix, and you don't bring anybody in of that level or above, are you happy because that's your process, or are you disappointed because it means you may not win the league?
No, if you don't get João Felix and you don't get Modric, you need to bring in somebody, because we currently don't have options off the bench to fix this team. Even with Jesus and ESR coming back,
answer my question then. But if you don't bring them in because they're too expensive, and that's not within your model, and you don't bring players that are as good or better, are you disappointed or happy because that's the process?
100%. Terry, we have to bring in an attacker in this window, minimum. One attacker across the front three. One attacker. We need some more squad depth in that attack. Minimum. One player minimum. And that player has to be of a certain level of quality where when they come in, we don't need them to adjust. We need somebody that comes in that is of a level of quality, and we're going to have to pay for that level of quality. I get that. But at the same time, we're not going to go and break our bank where in the future, next time when we want a midfielder or a defender or a right back, they're going to say, "Oh, you paid this much for Modric in January." We know we can hamstring these guys. As a club, we try to protect ourselves. And that's why Arsenal have only made one bad signing since 2019, because they do this. See, the only one signing they messed up and they paid everything was Nicolas Pepe. So hence, it's been working. Why would I go against it?
I'm not saying you should. My job is to ask questions and get direct, straight answers. Yeah, it's an interesting one for me. I think from my point of view, and I'm not saying you've done this. I haven't seen you do this at all. I just think there are some Arsenal fans, and from a previous era maybe, who used to love celebrate. They were like, yeah, we come fourth or third, but at least our net spend was better than the team that won the league. And I think Arsenal fans have got to get out. Some Arsenal fans have got to get out of that mentality. Fuck your net spend, because it ain't even real. Net spend does not exist.
That's what Liverpool are doing now.
That's how Liverpool cares about net spend. Yeah. Talk to the people who are angry about Ben White's wages, Ben White's pay, getting paid, getting whatever he got. When Ben White came in for 50 million, I said it could end up being a bargain. A lot of people were upset. Yeah. So personally,
I agree with you, Agal. I'm glad you answered it the way you did, because you're right. Arsenal fans should be demanding extra qualities brought in, because I kind of get, listen, this is the way it works. So generally in January, you pay a little bit more than you typically would in the summer. That's the typical rule in transfers. But Arsenal were in a unique position that nobody predicted at the beginning of the season. So for me, I think hemorrhaging 20 or 30 million pound more than you normally would to win the Premier League is worth it. Because when you lift that trophy, do you know how many people are going to... Some will do it, and this is what you'll get. Some will say, yeah, but you have to spend money to get there. Every motherfucker in the history of winning the league for the last 40 years have been... Go back to that Liverpool team that was winning in the 70s and the 80s. High spenders. Man United in the 90s. High spenders.
It's only Leicester in it, really.
Blackburn high spenders.
Blackburn. Leicester were an anomaly, and they couldn't maintain it because they weren't spending money. Like, this is the one thing the reason Arsenal, the reason you guys fell off from challenging for titles, but still were a top 4 team, is because they had a brilliant club, massive club, spent a lot of money, had one of the best managers the world has ever seen, but you didn't spend big. If you guys would have spent big, and yes, you went to the Emirates, and there was all these reasons, but this is what you guys have got to do. This is why Liverpool have fallen off so quickly, because they've not continued to spend as they did 3 to 4 years ago when they were winning everything. And that's the adjustment fans have got to ask for if you want to maintain that top level.
This is my take. The ball's in Chelsea's court. You're bluffing. You don't want Michailo Modric to the level that you actually are saying you want him. You want Enzo Fernandez.
I think they do.
Actually want him.
I think
they do.
1 second. If you actually want Michailo Modric, put 90 million down. We walk away.
Have you not seen?
Want him to that level? Then
have you not seen Chelsea? I'll tell you.
I will tell you this right now.
Chelsea's transfer strategy. Yeah.
Arsenal Football Club is not going to do what Chelsea does. We're not going to go and drop 90 million in a January transfer window on a player and
Might
then
drop 80 though.
have him sign down for a couple of years, and he doesn't even benefit us in the long run. We're going to make sure we keep to our valuation. That's the reality. And guess what? If it does cost us a league, it will be very bad, and we need to sign somebody. But I'm not saying walk away from him and not sign nobody.
I'm just
Chelsea,
saying,
I don't believe Chelsea Football Club even want Mykhailo Mudryk. They are bluffing. They don't want him. They don't even want to come near the valuation. They're literally trying to drive the price up, and it's absolutely a power play from Todd Bowley and these guys, because they can see everything that he's been doing since he's come in has been trying to rattle cages, and he genuinely doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Chelsea Football Club is a joke of a club. They don't know how to even recruit the right players for their positions. They're trying to sign a left winger in a team that needs every single position sorted out in the coming years. Get your money right, get your situations right, and stop talking bullshit.
He can play left and right, to be fair. He can play left.
Yeah, I think they want him, bro. You know what?
They
Their
definitely want him.
transfer strategy.
Anyways,
Okay,
I'm
look.
done.
Enzo Fernandez, Liverpool wanted him. Chelsea said, "No, I think I'll have that. If they want him, we want him." Mudryk, Arsenal, we'll have him as well. Then that's what Chelsea just copying everyone else's.
in fairness, Chelsea been doing that since Roman came in. You go all the way back to John Obi Mikel, William,
Sidwell, Scott Parker.
Yeah, loads of them. Dennis here says, stop putting words that Arsenal fans have not said. I've definitely read. I've seen the tweets, my friend. We want the club to spend money, but we want it spent smartly. And listen, Dennis, I agree you want it spent smartly. You don't want to hemorrhage on players regularly. But maybe this has come to Arsenal sooner than expected. Liverpool are certainly going through it in the last few transfers they've made. There comes a point where you can't pick up good quality players cheaply because everyone's cottoned on to how good you are at finding talent. So what do? They add a damn premium. They add a premium to these deals. That will come as well. But yeah, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. If Arsenal don't get Mudryk, which backups do you recommend given the desired lack of alternatives to Eddie, Saka, and Martinelli, especially the next 2 months? We desperately need 2 reinforcements. Yeah, I mean, Colleen, who would you go if you can't get Mudryk or João Felix? Who do you go for?
I mean, immediately I was just thinking Trossard. He was the first person who came to mind. If I didn't think we'd get Mudryk, just because Premier League proven, can do a job. And the reality, I'm thinking much more short term, if I'm being honest with you. And I think so are I'm not saying the Cronkies are as well, but they are obviously putting more money in because they know we are in a title. We're in a title challenge right now. We are. It's a fact. So it's either now or never. We can't risk not getting anyone. And I think it'd be a solid addition. I know I've heard a lot of shouts around Zaha. I think his contract's up in the summer, right? Not too sure that's I'm not sure how well that would fare in January and whether Arsenal would do it. But to be honest with you, I want Felix. I really do. I want him bad.
I was Arsenal. Musa Diaby, man. Cheap, left-footed, inverted. Musa Diaby from Bayern Leverkusen.
The problem with Arsenal is that, not the problem, because it's obviously so far so good, it's what is starting to work out, is that Arsenal are never going to, now under Edu and Arteta, are never going to now be that club who does those impact 6-month signing loans or anything like that just to get you to where you need to be. So I'd be very curious to see who was on their top 3 list when it comes to Felix and Mudryk, because we're just never going to be that kind of team under those two whilst at the club, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But when you've got to play a game of chess, which is what this is with Mudryk, Shakhtar's bar's up here, the player wants out, is doing a lot of stuff on social media. Arsenal is sticking to their guns. They're kind of speaking to Chelsea and other things. It's going to be dragged out until the end of this January window, I believe. So this is where you've got to hold your nerve, or just cut your losses and be like, okay, this has taken too long. Drop a certain amount on X, Y, and Z who you know you can get straight away.